And thank you also to the people online. I think Rahma is Rahma. If so, hi. Um, so I think that if you are here, you either love what you do, or you love the looks, or maybe you love somebody in the room, so, or all of the above. So I thought about doing a lecture for us. We are PhD students or like young adjunct professor or anyway educators, people working with the knowledge, trying to engage actually. Except we do, we are all precarious. Yeah. But and I think we can work with that using Velux as a teacher, trying to understand better how we can deal with our positioning, deal with our work, and do something with our work while doing something for us. So I wanted to start by asking some questions. I wanted to start from your experience about like one professor, one teacher that you loved, or one class, one teaching you loved, and maybe why you actually loved. So we can think a bit about, or if somebody just have a clear image of that teacher in 8th grade that maybe grade from the year. Maybe
I graduated 5 years ago. So, but when I was studying for my bachelor, I was here. I did feminist, and it's a topic I think I got not interested in, but professor, she was here. She's really good in listen us and understand the needs and ideas we have. Even if we don't care about psychology and psychological issues, and that young, no one of us will a lot of things. And it was a good experience because she asked a lot about us, but about our needs. The first idea.
Thank you very much. That was exactly what I was asking for you to remember. Somebody else had some experience, please.
For me, it was like 6 months ago, more or less, and we had a seminar of feminist anthropology, and it was very interesting because we engaged in a sort of game on intersectionality. And it was interesting because we all played teachers, experts, and PhD students, and we started to discuss about privilege, discrimination, and none of us had an idea on this. It was great.
Thank you. Also, you can remember older experiences. Like if you're studying right now, maybe at one point of your life you decided studying was worth of it, of your time and passion, and maybe somebody helped you. Or maybe somebody didn't help you, and that's why you're here.
For me, I can say it's also teacher.
Okay.
During my research, I was amazed about the women themselves, about how strong they are to go through like hard time, the conflict and the violence and everything, and they fight and they keep fighting just to support it, like their families. So it's for me, it changed my perspective in many ways. It changed my perspective in how I see myself as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That, oh, I have small issues and I'm always complaining about my issues. These women, they are like waking up every morning and they keep fighting and fighting and work and fight sort of feeling for the family. So for me, it is a group of women and not just one thing. Yeah.
So a group that you are actually part of.
No, I'm not part of it because this is a
Maybe
part
woman.
a woman know who are experiencing conflict and
Okay.
armed conflict, and they are survive and keep, and every day they are surviving. And so I was amazed how strong they are by surviving this. They keep smiling. So for me, I was just amazed of something.
Okay. The conflict like actual political.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I had quite a very bad experience with the inspirational videos when it was a series. Obviously, neuropsychology, cognitive psychology, psychoanalysis, all of this stuff. Including there even something related to my closer approach with integrity. When I was a student, your age, maybe even younger, they were malicious. I was totally insane. And I finished my studies and I was in search of inspirational videos. And finally, I found them quite recently, this 15 years ago, about very important about his name was someone that was quite an interesting person because he was in between Israeli, he was an Israeli citizen, and his there was part of was closer to the Israeli parties, the Palestinians, but they were Arabic speakers with the Palestinian descendants. He was the only one person within the Jewish community saying that claim is a Palestinian. And I started a very close relationship. He was quite older than me. So he started to challenge my disciplinary boundaries, my ways to look at the function of psychology. And here reminded me that I was totally satisfied. But I also internalized that his was a status. So he was able to break these my it's a vision in a way of this prejudice of me as against my discipline because I was totally enmeshed in my discipline, but he felt me through his poetry, through his very short novels, and this was to be more gentle with my discipline and then continue to approach second picture. That's fun side. Salman Matur. The most important work in the world is memory. It was a reproduction of history, structuring the collective memory of Palestinians after 48 catastrophe.
Thank you, really. Want to share something?
You have to almost the same experience. Success, if we have satisfied on unsatisfied memories for teaching and nutrition, the rest is satisfied one is very, very old for me. Was really young, and when someone I feel something in mathematics, and someone told me mathematics is really easy, but you just have to how it's logic, how this fits into the field. Then I discovered that I'm really using mathematics, and I continue with that so far. The unsatisfied, I started, I finished my bachelor in Egypt, in accounting. Then I was so unsatisfied, so I went finance. So I still unsatisfied. I made another bachelor in and master's in economics. I still unsatisfied. I went to development studies and then as a master's, I still unsatisfied. And I moved totally to social science. I came here, started a PhD in sociology,
And for many reasons, I left it. And I'm here as well. So I moved from accounting and finance to anthropology to all these things, and I discovered the opposite. I was satisfied with them, but I felt there are not enough. Like I felt like something always missing, something missing, something missing. And people were just pushing me out, pushing me out, pushing me out. Until I found someone who pulled me in. This is the most summary of my education. Like, life is a lesson, life is the biggest school, and school is a lesson.
Thank you.
I, like many of my colleagues, I fell in love with a teacher, and she teaches us philosophy of education, I think. And we loved her because she was able to get us in touch with between us and with our experience in the class. And lessons became something alive. And once she invited a poet to read some, to tell us about his poems. And this poet led us singing all together typical song in Italy, Bella Ciao, I think we all know. And all the class, 300 people in the class singing the same song. It was so weird to feel the university like it was a place a place that calls you by name to be here, and that's why you know it is very much.
Okay. Okay, nice. You're using we, so you all had this professor.
We not really just in this room.
Okay. Okay.
I had similar, but when I was 14, in my health teacher, so he had to handle the difficult topics like sexuality and drugs. And, like, he was our guide, and he made the class more workshops. Like, we were interacting with each other on these very difficult topics. And he would tell us stories, and he would ask us before the story if we want like low, medium, or hardcore story. So we could choose if we wanted how intense we wanted the story to be. Yeah, it was fun. And then I went back to his class in my final year, and I was his assistant. So I got to facilitate that with him.
Nice. Thank you.
For me, it's not about like conversion or like experience or like I can say like that there was a specific experience that totally affected or changed my life. But then I had different experiences and I also affected by different ancestral people. For example, from one of them, I could understand myself better. I could understand what I really want to do, what I would like to be specialized and with whom. Yes, I can't mention like only one person.
Perfect. Experiences that help to understand your own path and yourself. Could be.
Could be, but
Yes, I
it's
think
not
it
much.
is. Okay.
And then last maybe to manage my teacher at high school, and she was the teacher of the part from Bulgaria. She was very like politicized, not in a methodological way, and so she gave me a good critical maybe I was learning the one who focus, I was learning the language. She gave us a good value of regulation and engage.
Italian teacher is
very classical.
My teacher made me stray from the Italian. I left the Italian course because of her. Yeah.
But I mean, also Belux was a literature teacher, actually. So it is a very common experience to have like the literature teacher that helps you go in through some topics that are related to politics and civil society and civic engagement.
And what was interesting was that she studied biology, but then she went back to study Italian because she thought that Italian was the better to politicize students.
Yeah.
And then she became Italian.
So she understood pedagogy as something vocational and something that was meaning that had, yeah, a purpose. Thank you. Maybe somebody online wants to share something or just write something. So we don't want to exclude you. Okay, letting people. Well, whenever you want to express yourself, it's really hard to understand. So the sound is not clear. We can hear clearly. They cannot hear us.
Just we have to take care of to have the voice.
Okay.
Solution to later people that can listen to the voice. I don't think it's your problem, it's not the problem.
Yeah, you cannot hear the people in the room, right? Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Hi. Okay, so we will try to raise our voices and speak very loudly about things that are really personal. Okay. Do you want to share something from home about like some positive experiences or also bad experiences growing up related to teaching and learning and being in school or educate yourself better? It's okay. If you want to say something, you just open your mic and take the stage. So I didn't forget to ask you your names. Positioning is very important and like in feminist epistemology, like feminist epistemology most of all, but I thought it would have been nice to try to introduce ourselves starting from this kind of experience and then actually talk about who we are and from what place we are speaking, we are talking to each other. So I will start from myself. I am Mackda. I am, in Italian we say cognitariato to it's a word that means that you're precarious and you work like with knowledge. So it's like precariato, but it's cognitive, so it's cognitariato. Like Guido said, I work in 4 different universities, like an adjunct professor. And I really like to teach. It's my favorite thing. I'm also racialized Italian. My father came from Eritrea, from an ex-colony, former Italian colony, and my mother, she is from the Veneto region. I grew up in Verona. There is a very rightist city, but now we have for the first time, like for the second time, in my life, we have a new mayor who is not rightist. So we have a lot of hope for the future. Also, we have our first Afro-Veronese, African and Veronese representatives in the Consiglio Comunale. So we're very happy. Anyway, it was not that easy to grow up in Verona since it's a very close city. That is why for me, like knowledge and yeah, first like critical theory, let's say, has been a place, a safe place where to try to find something to make sense of things, and you know, but it sometimes it has also been it has also been a cage because I had a mother that all the time that I said, like, this is happening to me, somebody called me the N-word, this thing happened. She always said to me, you're superior, don't care about that, you know, it doesn't really matter, right? And if you mix critical theory or like a stand like yeah, if you mix this thing with these other things, critical theory can become like a cage or like a place in where you don't actually hear, but you cope with things that is very different. And we would see how the books actually address this thing. So this is where I came to, where I came from, where I come from, and why I started to like engage with the critical thinking and anti-racism, both from an academic and an activist perspective. Interesting.
Hi,
Good morning.
good morning. I
Hi,
want to
Fatima.
share also my story.
Okay, Fatima.
Yeah, my name is Fatima. My origin is Moroccan. I lived in Italy until 2020.
Fatima, sorry, people ask if you can open up your camera so we can see your face.
I didn't put hijab because I'm Muslim. If you
Okay, fine.
wait a little bit, I can open also camera.
Oh no, it's fine. It's perfect.
Okay. I'm I was talking regarding that now I'm not living anymore in Italy. I'm living in UK from 2020. When I came in Italy, I was 3 years old, and I grew up almost in Italy because from 3 years old until um, 1.5 years ago, I'm living all my life in Italy. When I come in Italy, I was very young. I didn't know anything regarding my origin. But in any case, I was excluded in school from nursery in Italy. And the same things happened to me when I go to my original country in Morocco. They told me, go back in your country. And the same things they told me in Italy. And for me, was very, very hard to understand this because I feel that I'm in a certain case Italian and also Moroccan in the same time because I grow up with my origin, with my culture, and with my tradition, but also because I live in Italy and I was in Mantova before, and after when I married, I went to Milan. And for me, really, was very hard to understand who I am and to tell people who I am and that people understand from which country I am. For in Italy was very, very hard because I have all documents, Italian documents, and they always put in my face, "You're Moroccan. Give me your settle, your pre-settle or settle." And for me, it was very hard because I never had this when I grow up, I know that I'm Italian with my passport. And when I change country from Italy to UK, this is the big difference that I noticed, because they didn't look at me like I'm physically. They look at to my paper, what is write down. I'm Italian in any case. When I told them, no, no, I'm Moroccan, they told me, no, your passport is Italian, you are Italian for us. And this give me more conscious, because I see my children that grow up in Italy from they are born, because they are born in Milan. And after all this year that they grow up like Italian, because they didn't go to our country anymore, every time they are excluded from school, from playing for any other place they can live together with other people. And for me, this was very, very bad, because nothing changed from 90s until now, and we are in 2020 when I come from Italy. And for me, I didn't understand why people didn't I don't know how can I. Devono essere consapevoli, ecco, in italiano. And I don't understand this, because they are very young. They grow up in Italy, they born in Italy, and still they are not Italian. And when they come here, because they are too much bullying in Italy, they been bullying in Italy every time. And I didn't find any solution, because I'm integrated in the city where I lived. I study in university in Bicocca, and in education training, to understand how can I manage with all these things that help my children to understand themselves, and not be every time excluded. Or there, in which place you will go, there is some people that they will not like you. But for people that their origin is not the same in the same country, it's really hard to understand this. And now we live here in UK, and really I noticed the difference, a total difference, because now they understand who they are, what is their origin, what they believe, and they are a human being like everyone, from which country is their origin. And I'm so happy that finally my children understand this. And also me, I understand this when I have 13 years. And for me, every person that live this situation, it's really hard. Also at school, in Italian school almost. When I come from Morocco, I noticed that they really didn't understand other people. And teachers are not, I think, I don't know the mean in English, but I think they need to have more training for this. Nowadays, because when I come I was, I think, the only one in all school that are from another country. But now we live in an era that in one city you can find several countries, and it's the best things that we understand that yes, is our country, is Italian country or another one, but if there is other people, they have the right to live there and to be the same like the origin one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. Somebody else in the chat wants to add in the Zoom call. No, it's not Zoom. Anyway, you know, online people. Do you want to add something? Okay, so thank you again, Fatima. We can go back to Mackda. Okay.
Sorry, we can't hear anything.
Okay, so Marta, Marta is a postdoc researcher here in Bicocca, and she studied here, but she's working in North of Africa, let's say.
Hi, I'm Lorenzo, and I study for my bachelor actually in education science. And my life is pretty simple. I work with children or in outdoor education now in like or something like that. It's going to be that.
Okay, so Lorenzo is working with children, and he's doing his education bachelor. Translated with education is into alternative pedagogy such as outdoor and Montessorian. I think so. Montessorian. Okay.
Hi, I'm Virginia. I'm a psychologist. I have been a researcher in the for 4 years. I decided to study psychology and psychology in education because I was passionate with attributes with attraction when I was a teenager, and I realized that my privilege during that time because I had the opportunity to have therapy, I had the opportunity to have a family and economic support, and that experience had a very strong impact on my education and my abilities in learning. And I think that psychology and diagnosis and having the opportunity to think about your mental health, how mental health is a privilege now, it's a very important topic just for how it's important. So I decided to become a psychologist. I decided to join a group called the Reductive Alignment, and we work on mental health and political aspects.
Nice. Did you hear Genia? You people kind of. Okay, so you have to really affirm yourself while you speak. Like, yeah. Okay, we're getting closer and closer. COVID is not a problem.
Hi, I'm Yasmin. I'm a PhD student here in Bicocca in anthropology. My mother is Italian and my father is from Senegal. So I find many similarities with what Mackda was saying before. And I grew up with the idea of finding a better world after a while. So it was always, in 10 years, in 15 years, races will not exist anymore because it was a sort of idea of progress about this kind of topic. And at the end, you realize that still after many years, you still feel uncomfortable with your blackness and your body in some situation. And as Virginia was saying before, I think that personal experience can shape your path, and that's why I did with my students suffering now in my PhD.
Thank you, Justin.
I'm Rachel. I'm from Los Angeles, California. And yeah, I grew up there my whole life, did my bachelor's in sociology and my master's in counseling psychology. And then I lived in New York for a while after traveling a lot, doing psychology in different parts of the world, which started to open my eyes to some of the strangeness of it, some of the needs, some of my perspective changing over time. And now I'm here as a PhD student.
Thank you, Rachel.
I am Dana.
Dana.
I'm from Pakistan. And I used to work as a psychologist. I did my bachelor and my master in Pakistan. And now I am a first year PhD student. Now I'm in America. So mainly I'm working with him also on other research since I am the research right now. Yeah. I'm just,
Thank you, Dana.
I am Mawa.
Mama.
See. From Sudan. I have a PhD in sociology and social research. But my experience, my work journey didn't begin with sociology. Actually, it started with I studied econometrics for 5 years, and then I decided to do a master in econometrics as well. After I finished my master, I figured out that numbers is not enough to discover people or to study people. So I wanted to know more about the community, about the world around me. So I decided to do another master in economic development. And here it was the challenge for me, because the master that I wanted to do it was outside Sudan. And I come from a conservative family. My mom was so productive. So I applied for a master in Qatar, Doha, and then I got accepted. And then I was so afraid that if I went back home and tell my family that I been accepted to a master outside Sudan, they're gonna feel afraid, and they will say no, you were not gonna go. But somehow my dad supported me. My mom was afraid. And what made her more afraid that the community around her that was telling her, if your daughter go outside, she will not gonna get married, she will just focus on her study, this is gonna be bad for her. And somehow I tried to convince her this is not the case, it's not gonna be very bad. And then she started to feel, I think she started to feel more comfortable because it's a more Muslim country. So I'm not going to have a challenge because we're Muslim and they are Muslim and there is not a Western country. So she started to welcome more ideas. She has some fears, but she welcomed more ideas. She started to trust me. And then I went for 2 years. After that, I decided to go back to my country because I was working at the same time at the University of Khartoum, Sudan. So I decided to go back in 2017 and to bring the knowledge that I learned to the students, to teach them that a new way of learning and everything, and engage more in research inside the community. But I faced many challenges in the university itself. They didn't welcome how we can make a debate about with the student with each other. We can just bring a coffee break and then we can just talk about the economic development, population development and the challenges, inequality, environment and everything. We can make videos and students talk, but they saw it like what she is doing. This is wrong. Even if we want to solve some problem with the student, they see it like this is not our work. So I felt more like I cannot do anything. So I decided to apply for a PhD and run away from the country. And then I get accepted here. And this is what another challenge also with my family, because now this is a Western country. This is not an Arabic country. My mom was so afraid. She didn't welcome the idea at all. She started to cry, like, why are you going there? This is wrong, but in some point she started to realize more, this is my future, and she cannot be like against my future. And then she was more like, she told me go, but she doesn't want me to go at the same time. But it was like, yeah, it was also hard to engage, to tell her. And during my experience in this, going to Qatar and going to here to come in Italy, I know what's mean to be labeled, to be Black, women, and Muslim. The first time happened when I was in Qatar. One of the professor told me, "Mawa, you have a benefit." I told him what is the benefit it is, and he told me, "You are Black and you are Muslim, so you can have a scholarship everywhere." I didn't understand at that time what is the meaning of that, because I was in Sudan, so we were all, the color is not that different. And then I didn't take his words in account. And then when I came here, I started to realize more what is being Black and Muslim. So like this experience in these 5 years saw me like really labeling me like a Black and African Muslim woman. So yes.
And then you got married, so
I got married to a white guy. White and Egyptian. And they hate, sorry, what you hate Sudanese. Yeah, it's
Okay. Thank you, Mao. Yeah. So there was somebody in the room. Somebody else. Okay. Amazing.
Before I studied a lot of many things, different things.
Yeah.
And I'm here now doing teaching anthropology in the podcast. It's something related to religion and diaspora for Egyptian community in Lebanon. And it's exactly what you are saying. I'm studying it. So I hear this, not the same story, but the same framework of the story with every interview I make. And I live it myself in many cases. And about how people they can't understand the differences. So many reasons behind that, but mainly I see that the person think that they are more close minded. They are afraid that like all the resist person is afraid. He's not someone who sees that he is like has a privilege or something new. He's afraid of something and he acts or always react because of his mindset. And the stereotyping, he's always afraid of something. That's why he's trying to act to defend himself before someone attacks him. Like in the case of religion, or in the case of black, in the case of women, like different type of stereotyping. And I guess Italians, they are more under the doom of political fascist and stuff. Fascist so far, they're under the doom of the different political thoughts, ideological thoughts, and they are almost trying to defend themselves by being political, not political, some of them they are very racist, but they are doing that in, I, I think, intentionally. Like they don't intend to be racist. Like in other places, I saw very, really racist people. They know they are racist and they do that, but the Italians they don't know that much they are racist, but they are defending themselves somehow, or they can be open to, they are afraid of many things. I don't want to speak on it, but this is what I see, how I see this issue.
Thank you. Thank you. If somebody online wants to say something, please take the mic, but I don't want to force you because I think there is like a difference between being here and being online, so I don't want to force anything on you. So I want to ask you something that is doing overlooks. Do you know her life, her work? Did you read some books? Okay, so what the book? Ghebremariam. Okay.
I started the book, but then there was teacher book.
Okay. So did you read it's for everybody? Reasonable.
It's a part of all about love. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, all about love. Okay. So,
No, I started to know her work more from these lectures.
okay, perfect. Do you know about her life? No. So I will start. Today I will talk to you mostly about some free books that are teaching to transgress that we translated in Italian. Teaching community and teaching critical thinking that is considered the pedagogical trilogy of books. So, but I will say something to you about who she was, because that is important to understand what are the things at stake in here. So I would say a few words about her, then I would show you something, we will talk about it, and then we will go in deeper into mainly teaching community and teaching critical thinking, because I'm a bit tired of teaching to transgress, because it's 2 years, I think, it's plain. So Belux was born in the 50s in rural Kentucky. So she went to the segregated school, right? And she talks about it in Teaching to Transgress, saying that something that we understand as inherently positive, such as desegregating schools, it has been a major source of difficulties for her. Because when she attended the black school, she was in a class that was made, and the purpose of the class was the survival of black people. So her own survival. And black teachers were passionate about giving these children the tools to help them preserve themselves in a society that was actually thriving onto oppressing and exploiting them, right? But when schools were desegregated, this meant that black people went to white schools and not the other way around. So she didn't have any more her black teachers that were engaged in her survival, and she found that her experience was marginalized in the school curriculum and in the class. This is something racialized people really understand, because even if like a minority is more recent than others, when you're in a classroom where white supremacy thinking is even if it's not announced, but it's reproduced. This experience puts you in your place, and this place is a subaltern place. So she was very passionate about studying, about theory, about the possibility of freeing herself with knowledge, but she experienced some apathy during this transition. And this had her understand what was wrong with the knowledge, as sometimes, most of the times, it's understood in schools and academia. Or we were lucky because she found again her passion, and she went to Stanford, and she went on studying. And when she was studying her bachelor, she already wrote her masterpiece, that is Anti-a-Woman, that is, and the title referred to the famous speech of Sojourner Truth, right? And like when she was 20, she was already engaging with intersectionality, even if intersectionality was still not a thing. There was not the word, because the word came in 1989 with Crenshaw. But in the 1970s, Bellux was writing this book about the intersectional experience of being a Black woman in white institutions. She went to Stanford because of affirmative actions, and this is important to say. Everybody knows what affirmative actions are. No. So affirmative actions are policies that are implemented. They're also sometimes translated as positive discrimination. And when an affirmative action is made for specific groups, the identity characteristics, features are taken into account as forms of, let me pass it, English, it's not my main language, as privilege for entering some spaces. For example, we say racism is structural and Black people usually have lower income, they are less educated, they don't, okay. So we have to privilege their entrance in this space of education, in this line of work, etc. Right? And she was the receiver of an affirmative action, like a lot of very important African American thinkers. But like in 1971, when she wrote Anti-a-Woman, this book was not ready to be read by the general audience, and it took her 10 years to publish it. So everybody thinks that, like, so in fact, her first book is not Anti-a-Woman, but is, yes, the raccolta, yeah, poems that are called and Then We Wept. So Bellux wrote more than 30 books in her life. She wrote self-help books, she wrote academic research, she wrote children's book. And she was really committed to like having feminist and anti-racist thinking and theory to be spread in very different audiences. But most of all, she said, I want to be understood by people in prison, because we all know that like Black people in the United States face mass incarceration. I want to be understood by housewives, thank you, by housewives, and I want to be understood by working class people. That is why I really encourage you to read her books, because they are very, very rich, but at the same time, very simple to read. Because she asks herself, will a person that come off a really tiring work hours will sit and read this book? If not, maybe I'm doing something wrong. So this is the spirit that that she put in her work. For a lot of years, she was engaged in teaching to teachers and spreading like pedagogical tools to the community. And that is why we have these 3 books, because she went in different places, formal and informal spaces of education, to speak with people that was actually living living the same experiences she was living. So this trilogy is dedicated to everybody, but it is mainly for us, for students, for teachers, and for people that work with pedagogy and people that believe that education is the main tool to create radical change and transformation in society. That is why the topic that we would talk about today is the topic of healing. So today, am I still sharing the screen? This screen, not the screen.
From the content, and then start.
So,
Yeah,
so last weekend I was in a very nice place. It was a summer school. I met two very amazing people. They are called Denise Ferreira da Silva and Valentina Desideri, and they were engaging in like political therapy. It's called, right? And they made me formulate a question, and the question I posed to them was, what would healing look like? And the result was this, the same thing. Okay. So, do you know what this is? It's a terror, right?
Yes.
It's a terror. So, Valentina and Denise are engaging in using different tools, like astrology, like tarot, to talk about like politics and talk about collective conscience and political spirituality and things like this. And when I posed this question for the whole audience, and they gave me a lecture, they gave me a reading about that. And this was the image that represented healing in this reading, right? And this is the image of a community, like actually gathering in celebration. And today, yeah, the same tarot was brought on, right? And it was very funny to me because I approached healing as a concept from Ux's perspective, and Ux is really about healing, and Belux really thinks that healings can happen only through community. And I thought these are like really brilliantly represented what teaching community, the second of this trilogy of books, represent. So, what we would talk about today is how teaching, pedagogy, healing work together in the classroom to create a different kind of knowledge, a knowledge that is transformative, a knowledge that has a goal that is empowerment, liberation, transcendence, and renewing the vitality of life, finding and claiming ourselves and our place in the world, right? What you said before about your positive experiences all relate to this. So knowledge, it's not inherently positive. It's not inherently healing. Knowledge in Ux's works helps to recreate the wholeness of the self and the community. Otherwise, knowledge is something bad, and it's something that it's only meant to reproduce the status quo and things as they are, because Belux is a critical thinker, is structures of power, where race, class, gender, but also sexual orientation, also this ability plays structuring roles and confine people into specific identity and specific places, right? So if we talk about education and if we talk about pedagogy for Belux, as it is for you, pedagogy is about meeting oneself and meeting the other in a community. So what's really concerned about is finding tools to create this community. And she said, okay, there are a lot of communities in all about love. What she is about is the community of lovers, how we can actually create a community where everybody loves, is able, has the tools to love each other. What she's concerned about in teaching to transgress, teaching community, and teaching critical thinking is how we can create an educational community, mainly in the classroom. How can we be in the classroom when the classroom is one of the places, one of the main places where the otherness of the racialized subject is created, is constructed. You can jump on the conversation whenever you want. Also, you tell me when you want to take a break and have a coffee or cigarette. So you see TC when it's teaching community, when it's TC, it's teaching critical thinking. I was lazy with yoga. So first of all, Belux in teaching to transgress, Belux speaks a lot about her experience as a student. But in teaching community, she is more concerned as with her experience as a teacher, with teachers' experiences, right? And how teachers actually really influence the classroom. Because it is a place of power and it needs to be acknowledged and used. So it's not like that we have to be aware that teaching is the teacher role is a role of power. We cannot deny that. But actually, but we have to ask ourselves, how can we redistribute power and resources in this place? And of course, this is the way to produce a decolonized knowledge. Especially when people that is in front of you, people that is in front of us, is people that have lived, experienced challenge that are not addressed in any way by the curricula, by the things that are acknowledged as knowledge. So the first thing that I wanted to point out about pedagogy is that teachers need to live. Teacher needs to be flexible and try to embrace what actually happens in the classroom. If we have our plan and we want to stick with it, and if we are too afraid of being exposed and being vulnerable in the classroom. There will never be space for like certain knowledge to happen. What X is saying is that here any digression from the concrete lesson plan, we end up missing the most powerful experience we can offer students, that is the opportunity to be fully and compassionately engaged with learning. It means that we have the courage, we are, like, how many of you actually teach? You teach. Okay. Yeah.
Not to children, I teach in school.
Okay, you teach in a high school?
For me, university.
You teach in the university. Do you do some classes or
And then informal teaching.
informal teaching?
I
Okay, you teach.
probably at first in the past.
That also I teach. I talk.
We do.
Sorry. Better.
Yeah, to sure, I think then
Okay.
we are more chapter to chapter.
Yeah, because I heard some noises, I think.
Yeah, maybe somebody.
Somebody has interesting. Maybe not.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so like for nothing. Okay. And okay. So what happens when we have a class? Usually, what happens? What happens when we prepare a class?
When we compare classes,
Yeah.
trying to make a more stable, trying to transform our ideas. Languages so you use books that the sustainable type of connection
Right.
to understand. So we want to be perfect here. Normally we that's probably half an hour. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the reality
So-
of it.
But what's the real reality? Okay, we have to teach. Most of us have to teach, and who people will have to teach if we do academic career. We have to teach, and teaching, at least in Italy, is not considered in any way, right? Because you are valued on how much you do research, how much you publish, right? And nobody cares if somebody is a good teacher or it's not, or is not a good teacher. You don't get points for teaching it, right? But you have to do it anyway. And you take what you researched about, take what you know, what you think is important, and you prepare a class. And usually you don't have much time to do that, right? So, okay. When you prepare a lesson, it's kind of creating a political structure or a structure or a place or a city. You create something, right? And you have to decide how flexible it would be, how easy it would be to believe in, how difficult it could be instead, right? Because you're offering it to people, and if people don't use it, don't cross the street, don't feel represented in the structure, the class would be dead. Like that is actually the term, that is the term that is used by us to talk about this kind of knowledge and this kind of classroom. So actually creating something that has the space to let people in and let people participate in the construction of knowledge. It's something that it's like the base of pedagogy as a practice of freedom, of engaged pedagogy. What you said before echoed in this perspective, right? What most of you said that the most beautiful experiences of learning has been experiences where you were called into participate in the construction of knowledge, in the construction of the classroom, in the construction of the rules and the relations that in the classroom are experienced. So if we talk about engaged pedagogy and the education as a practice of freedom, we talk mainly about creating a space where people can jump in, where people can feel represented, where people can actually be part of the knowledge that is constructed. I would make you a simple example. As a racialized Italian, I felt my whole life excluded from art history. If you study art history in Italy, it's mainly saints and Christs and Holy Marys and when Black people enter the scene, they are usually servants or bad people, like committing something atrocious. Art history is very important in Italy. It's a strong part of how the national identity is built, because we are the country of the Renaissance, because of Florence, because of this way of representing. And no teachers helped me, talked about me in the class, and thought that, well, let's maybe change this. Let's maybe try to introduce a way to make you part of this narrative. That is why for a long time I was really not into art. I thought that art was the thing that I was taught about, and that it didn't have anything to do with me. So this is the result of creating unsafe and uncrossable space of education. But no. So when we deal with engaged pedagogy, something else needs to come up and be part of the of the pedagogical practice that we are creating in the class. Folks, for example, one thing is spirituality. She was a spiritual person. She was kind of a Buddhist. She was inspired by thought of Thich Nhat Hanh. And she thought of spirituality as another way of building a sense and having means to be in the classroom. Martha said her teacher had a political engagement. Mm, it could be anything, but like a teacher needs to enter a classroom with a clear pedagogical mandate, mm, with an understanding of how to construct a pedagogical pact, mm, and use these to bridge the gap between the teacher and the students. Mm. As I was saying, spirituality is the force that is able to do this for Felix. Mm. And in a teaching community, she said this. She says that she shared with her students what's the origin of her hope, what's at the basis of her hope, of her continuously engaging with transformation and quoting Naomi Lemons. She says, now as educators we cannot heal the shadow of our culture, educating people to succeed in a society as it is. We must have the courage to educate people to heal this world into what it might become. Mm. So education, if it's not seen as something transformative, basically it's not worth the time that you spend in the classroom. Mm. And this is something that she keeps on repeating in the whole book. Talking about the fact that sometimes when the students are tired and they don't want to participate, because it's challenging to participate and it's also it takes energy. She reminds them what's the importance of living in the moment, of being in the place, and what is the importance of using this time to actually change, to transform themselves and the knowledge they are producing. So you have some more to do you want us to take a break? Yeah. No.
Maybe,
Rachel says no.
maybe we can have a break. And then at the end, just Rachel will be here.
Oh, wait.
Pause.
Rachel, you don't want to.
I just don't want to lose time because I feel like you have a limited time. And that's all.
Mm. Okay, we have until 6.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But we can talk with each other, sure. Like going to the club having coffee so we can maximize.
Let's go together to school.
You have to keep your break.
No, but
No, in my mind, it was over in 20 minutes, not an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm more relaxed now.
okay. Break.
It's like, why are we taking a break? 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We take a 10-minute break. You can have a break in your own place. Now walk break. How much time?
Check, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's start.
Now let me slow So African Americans always, yeah, they have this thing with Black Jesus, because of course, yeah, the real miracle is that the Palestinian guy is white. Okay, So we can start again. Um, share.
Comunque, d'altra volta anche io a un certo punto parlo un altro del perché mi sento di buttare, invece la c'è una partita oppure da applicazione cellulare, quindi device, però sì, no, poi girava la testa, quindi dopo non si può girare, questo veramente difficile subire.
Bisogna fare quella riunione che ha l'anticipazione.
So during our break, we were talking about doing a PhD, and we were talking about the challenges that like doing a PhD really pose, especially for racialized subjects, because we are constantly delegitimized. We are constantly reminded of our being out of place, both as body and as cultures. So for Benux, one of the results of thinking about knowledge as a tool for freedom, as a practice of freedom, and as something that has healing as its main goal, is to affirm what she calls a healthy self-esteem. So I put quote because I really love for you to read Belluc's work. So education is as a practice of freedom affirms healthy self-esteem in students. As it promotes their capacity to be aware and live consciously. So, for instance, we emerge as an rather than group. And we, as teachers, but also as PhD students, as people entering this space, coming from marginalized stories, groups, and experiences, like Belux, who, as I said, was the receiver of an affirmative action, have a specific a privilege from our standpoint to look at structures differently and to embrace alternative modes of thinking, both during our students' year and when we become teacher. So I wanted to talk with you about what she means as healthy self-esteem, because it is a concept that she really highlights and stresses throughout most of the teaching community. For Belux, not having a healthy self-esteem is one of the main reasons that people from marginalized group can the main reason why people from marginalized group can fail in education. Failure from a standard, from a normalized point of view. And she speaks about her own experience, because talking about oneself is one of the main storytelling is one of the main tools that she used in the classroom, and like giving yourself to the classroom, be vulnerable, and explain oneself to the classroom is an important approach, is an important features of a teacher that is engaged in transformative knowledge. And talking about healthy self-esteem, she talks about one point in her career when she was teaching at Yale as an adjunct professor, of course, but she did not go through with the tenure process. And she said, I knew that at that time at Yale, there was no space for certain discourses, and there was no consideration regarding my specific positionality and what I was bringing into the table. So actually, like not going through this process was a way for me to affirm myself and the fact that my self-esteem did not depend from the fact that the Yale institution had to recognize me. So she understood this and she left. She didn't want unenlightened colleagues to review her, but this thing did not prevent her to consider this teaching experience as one of the best of her life. So what I'm trying to say is that when we enter this kind of spaces and we understand that there is no place for us, at the same time, we have to acknowledge that it's not about us, that it's something structural and it's something that we can manage to avoid with practice of self and collective care. But at the same time, we can be grateful and we can enjoy and we can grow and thrive because of what we encounter in that spaces. So affirming a healthy self-esteem is what allows you to both embrace students and embrace what an institution has to give you, but at the same time not taking all that the institution represent by itself. In this case, Yale, and of course sexism and racism and of course classism. At the same time, establishing a healthy self-esteem, it's something that forces us to dig deeper into our history and claim back things of our past that shaped us and made us who we are. Traumatic experience that need to be addressed in order to be present in the classroom. So, in fact, Belux is really concerned with the well-being of teachers. She thinks about teachers as healers, as a specific kind of healer, and says that you cannot be of help, you cannot help others heal if you have not done the work onto yourself. So being in the present, being at peace with oneself, it's something that is needed in order to create a certain kind of classroom. And to do this, we need to, I don't think this is the right quote. In order to do that, we have to talk about the past, understand things that happened to us, so that we can heal from them and go forward. That is what I was talking to you about when I talked to you about the fact that Bellux believes that there is a difference between healing and coping. So coping mechanism can make us interesting, can make us witty, funny, and like they have a lot of shadow, yeah, side. But at the same time, they are, of course, coping mechanism. When there is a coping mechanism, you see there is something that is not resolved. And healing is something really deeper for Bellux. It's something that pertains what we've been through in our childhood, in our life, and the fact that if we are not able to address it, then we cannot heal the wound, and then we reproduce violence. The same violence that we were exposed to. Sorry, I'm okay. I will jump from one thing to another because of the stream of thoughts is going like this. So, in teaching critical thinking, Bellux says that at one point she became aware that in order to be a good teacher, she could not yeah, she could not know, she needed to address the psychological growth of the students. And that is because they have low self-esteem. But this low self-esteem is not something that pertains to the individual, but it's something that marginalized group, women as well as racialized people, are forced into. And she says something else. She says, while these very highly intelligent students, most of them racialized, had issues, other people were very smart and managed to learn the game very soon. But what happened to these people is that in their path, in their story, their flow become apparent. And as she was following them into their teaching careers, she found them to be authoritarian, autocratic, more likely to be authoritarian, autocratic, and acting in the classroom, sadistic towards students, or just plain mean. And I think this is something that can really help us to focus on some point. Can you see somebody in here? Okay. Can you? Okay. Can you see? Do you see somebody in here? Somebody that you know? Somebody that maybe and you feel like you were not in the right place, you were not doing things right, you could not follow and like
in the past at the university, but I'm teaching because I decided to left to leave for back into Milano, and now I'm teaching. I'm a teacher and a nursery school. I don't consider it. I've learned to not consider but it's a school I worked there, and I worked there for 2 months. And the interesting thing is that really is, I think that I feel so anxious to do something my colleagues consider wrong. And my anxiety not help me because I behave in some way I don't like. If I client and one that I consider right as teacher and but I'm so anxious
Perform.
yeah to perform, and it's very interesting because I work with very young children, so I have I'm very responsible, able to control and there is a sort of create passion.
And when I tried to my, and that brought me to thinking that all the stuff, all the rules in the school are wrong. Okay, because I feel them like authoritarian or not much positive, but it's like in a clear way. I was so confused, and I started to talk with them like we were friends, like Bella, and like children, you know. And I think that's a great problem. And one part of the problem is that I faced that problem by myself and not with all my colleagues. And the school didn't organize meeting between teachers. So if you're alone, it's difficult to act in a good way. You act and that
Thank you.
I have this same impression in a way. I try to involve and to change the authority to change the structures of the mainstream teaching, and then I get angry because my students they don't follow me, so I start to be very authoritarian. So you have to be free, right? But to challenge the system, and the more I'm trying to force them, then the less they get involved, and the more I become authoritarian. So yes, in some way you're in a, like trapped in a sort of hierarchical
Yes.
structure of power,
Yeah.
even when you want to change it.
Yes. That's it.
you have to be free.
Yeah.
It's a sort of paradoxical.
Yes.
Be free is a sort of paradox.
So, thank you, because I was kind of externalizing the thing while you like took it back from a reflexive point of view, and it's true, right? What we are saying is that if we don't, if we follow the rule, even if we don't, and we don't take, we don't have the courage to understand how these rules were made to, yeah, to shape us in a certain way. We reproduce the same power, and we reproduce it because we are not aware of who we are in the space and what we can actually do in that space. That is why Belux can say, healthy self-esteem, knowing who I am and what is my value, had me saying, Yale cannot judge me. Yale cannot give me a tenure track. It's not that the point, it's not about my value, right? Because if we think it's about us and we are on the line whenever people decide to do or think or act like we think it's right or how we think they should be in the classroom, then we are projecting our insecurities, our incapacity of understanding our roles and ourselves onto them. With the form of this autocratic, authoritarian classroom where actually pleasure does not have a space. For Belux, there are emotions are really important, and the classroom needs to be a place where pleasure is present. Otherwise, people is not learning. People cannot learn without pleasure, also without pain. And pain is also a very important feature in learning, but it is the same for pleasure. And if we are not solid enough to let this thing what we perceive as the problem, as Guido and Eugenia said before.
But even if we ask ourselves who I am and what are my values, and I give an answer to me to all these questions, but I'm into a system, I'm into the scholar system the way it's shaped by the minister or by the it's possible to me to change the situation even if I'm into that system and my role is not defined just by myself, but defined by the structure into who I am, the structure I am into.
I would take a step. Yeah, I would.
Sorry.
No, not sorry. Thank you. I will answer as Mackda and not as a Belux reader right now. And I would say that there's always a space to create. Also, I'm answering as a Belux reader. There's always space to grow and to create a different way of doing things in the classroom. Of course, there are limitations. For example, I don't believe in evaluation. I really don't believe in evaluation. It is really a problem for me to do action with students, right? And I explained this to the students. I told them, for me, it's so stupid that we are, like, for example, I have a class that is 60 hours. 60 hours is a lot of time with people, okay? We have the 60 hours together, and we make something together. We create a place where you can feel safe and say things, and we explore different dimensions of oppression that relates to you. And at the end of this, and we deconstruct and we talk about decolonization and we talk about like freeing yourself. And at the end, I take like a stamp and it puts a grade on you. And I don't believe in this. Yeah. And so we managed to do something. We thought, okay, we cannot avoid this, but we can delegitimize it from the inside. So I decided to have 3 different way of testing and to let them decide how to do their exam. It could be a paper, it could have been an oral, an oral with me or a collective oral exam with me. And I have to tell you, most of them decided to do more of like different ways. So most of them decided to write a paper and then came to me to have a talk about the class and the paper. Of course, if we do an exam in 3 different ways, there's no way of comparing them. So we are saying this is not how, this is not working, this is not what you asked me to do as a teacher. I'm not simply grading them. I'm finding way to say that grading is not possible. And I have to say, I don't judge them. I judge the way, how I feel they are involved in the topic. I have given like a few A+, 30 lode, just to people that was really into the topic. But most of the grades were like top of grade by default. Okay, because this is the fact that we made at the beginning of the class. And I stick to this. I'm not doing a revolution, but at least we are moving in some way into the structure that contains us. And actually it worked, because they worked more than just simply saying to them, okay, so the exam is the 8th of June, you have to read 3 books, and then I would judge how much you actually can repeat word by word something that maybe has no meaning for your life. So I believe there's always space to create a different. Also, if you read the teaching community, the title is Teaching Community, a Pedagogy of Hope. And the first quote of the book is a quote by Freire about hope. And sometimes I get cynical because also it's a coping mechanism, right? But Velux says that without hope, we cannot transform. We always have to bring our hope that something will change and that we are able to be part of this change. Yeah. The written of the book say you see a certain very close institutions such as the educational institutions. And then our attempts to really change and to really invent this institution. But then we are always in a very challenging condition in a way. We want to change things, but even introducing certain kinds of ideas and direction that are in a way revolutionary in an institution that remains the same. It's quite controversial in a way, because it's like you are showing that this institution is capable to include kind of changes while then at the end of their educational experience, these students will enter in a society according with what they earn as a academic degree. So low level academic degrees and middle types, and that's quite, I think. For example, here from the Cocker, we have prepared in the educational sciences quite low tier students. Most of them, they documented state of the population, and they still remain in this very disadvantaged groups of people. So
it's really challenging because in a way you introduce new languages that can break with certain traditions. But the institutions still remains authoritarian. Maybe it's a sort of extractivist operation. You use languages that are quite, and that was even something that we discussed the last time with Marie, and Marie said that maybe we have to be brave and to see that to change, we need to take distance from the academy and to go in other places, because this would be a risk, the fact that finally the power will use your revolutionary or your ideas that want to break with the mainstream to confirm the mainstream itself.
Maybe also the changes. I saw that when a PhD students learn that it's very powerful to judge students. And really the PhD students, the competencies to judge students, and it's something very, very bad, but I have seen in my year working at universities for society. None of that many PhD students feel very well to not to teach, but to judge students. And their supervisors are really happy to give them exams and things like that. And I feel also that with social media, I see every day on social media PhD students make fun of students, for example, of students who have exams with them. So it's very hard to talk about how we are in this system and how much is hard.
It's like we are in a sort of it's the institution that are preparing people to occupy certain positions in the society, so workers, so the manager class, so people coming from the Bocconi University will go to a certain position in the society, the ones coming from the other position. And I mean, the risk is to be complicit of this possible, this way to think out of knowledge. The candidates.
So, I don't think academia and university as a monolithic, right? So there's the institution and there are the structures, and the structures are what they are. And they are, let me use a Marxian term, they are always able to subsume, extract every kind of knowledge that is produced from grassroots activism, from non-formal pedagogy, from places that are not institutionalized. At the same time, I believe that the classroom is like a space that can be out of academia. So we can close the door and do something else with what we have. And we can do that together because students are not the academy. So it's like normal, unfortunately, that PhD students who are like here in the structure of hierarchy,
At the bottom.
Kind of at the bottom, they can only use power against students, so they say, why not? It's the only power I have to humiliate you. and it can happen, but at the same time, we can be ally and we can be in complicity with students, and we can act out of what the academia want us to do. And there are like there are very simple ways of doing this. For example, I will give you another example just to, at the beginning of the year, they asked us for a syllabus, and I never gave a syllabus because I always decide the books and the program in the first day of teaching with the students. So university usually hates me, and they keep sending me emails because there's the syllabus missing. But I tell them that it's a pedagogical agreement that I'm doing with the students, that they have to decide the books, otherwise they will not be invested. Also, deciding the books makes them confront with the theme of consensus versus majority. So they usually vote, and then they have problem, and then they complain, and then I tell them that like freedom is more exhausting than every other form of existence. And they fight, and then at the end they decide what books they want to read. So it's not like I'm giving the institution tools that the institution can like annihilate. Okay. I'm asking the students what tools we want to build together. And it's very easy to do this. And it costs me very little conflict with the institution, right? Because it's just a syllabus. And I'm explaining them why I'm not giving it to them. Or for example, when we decide, I ask them how they want to be evaluated, not only what would be the exam, but how they want to be graded, if they want to participate in class, if they want to do co-teaching between. So if they decide so, they separate, they create groups, and then they take some part of the books, and then in every class they explain part of the books they've chosen to the other, and then we comment and we create.
It's like your space, in a way. It's a sort of safe space, trying to critically discuss what students are experiencing in their career as a student, which is a sort of training to be part of a hierarchical society and classes society. And that's a good point. On the other side, we need in these times real rapture to really support people, not to set them to cover subaltern position, just set to the oppressor against the people, because we don't have time for sort of a slow and very long change. We need that change. So yeah, I agree completely that you are doing very amazing things. But then, what is the result of this process? Not your class, but when they need to be graduated. That's quite relevant to me. We don't have time to make this process very slow generations. Long process. So it's now the time to change. I think these are.
I think we cannot pretend that people follow uh, our sense of urgency when we talk about change. Change is very difficult. One of the first anthropologists that studied racism in Italy, she's named Paola Tabet, and she came from the French materialist feminist school of thought, and she wrote a book called La pelle giusta, the right skin, in the 90s, and it's the first book on racism, on race representation and racism in Italy. And she did this research with young people from middle school and also from primary school, and they asked, and she asked them to write an essay with the title "What if my parents were black?" And they wrote like unbelievable things, very racist thing, and like it was clear until then, like in the 90s, Italy represented itself as a non-racist country, of course, a country of good-hearted people, and also, and like children, like most children, even more so, like children are the image of innocence for us, so we cannot believe they are sexist and they are racist, but of course, like the things they know, they knew it because of society and family, so they are racist too. And the book is titled The Right Skin because one of the least racist essay was from a child from Emilia-Romagna that was presenting himself as a communist. And he was saying, I would love my parents, I would love my parents the same if they were black, even if they don't have the right skin. So, and Paola Tabet felt the urgency of doing something because she had two black children. And I was speaking to her and she told me, I did this research because one time, because I was invested in understanding the relation between gender and race, as the school of thought she came from, the French school of thought she came from, was doing. But I was worried for my children. And one time they came back home from school, and I asked them how did they felt, if something happened to them because of the color of their skin. And she said that one just simply cried and was silent, and the other was simply silent and didn't answer them. And she felt at that moment the urgency of doing this research. But at the same time, she was saying, I know the change would be very slow. I know we would be doing this for a long time. And the same, like one of the founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, talking about the importance of self-care for Black feminism, but like for activism, every kind of social activism from LGBTQIA plus, A plus, and self-care is very important because we know we are here for the long run, right? Change, revolution are very, I love revolutions. Sometimes they can be very sudden, but most of our works, like liminal and constant work, trying to change something small, something by a centimeter, something like that. And we have to have the courage, I think, to admit that and also to enjoy that when we have a result, even if it's a small change. Otherwise, we would be very sad. Frustrated. Yeah, and sadness never helped the revolution, right? And this is something Benux is very clear about. We don't have to pretend that simply because we want to we are able to change a classroom in a heartbeat or an institution. Mm. But it doesn't mean we don't have to try and we don't have to persevere. And this it doesn't mean that what we are doing is very important. Let's have some book, otherwise. No, we need it. Otherwise, this will not work. Nothing will work. Sometimes I feel very tired. Like I feel like I'm saying the same things. It's 10 years now where I'm saying the same thing, and I'm so tired of hearing my own voice. And sometimes I don't believe in what I say because I've said it too much, right? Without seeing things change. So if we think about the citizenship law in Italy, of course you talked about that. A lot of years. How can activists for the reform have the courage to still going go there and say, okay, we have to change that, but we won't. How we can have that when I enter a classroom and I transmit and I read Belux with them and I read Angela Davis and I read Grada Quilomba and I read from mostly black female author talking about this kind of thing. I see something in the students. I feel them. I see them like becoming alive. I don't know, and this is the sense that I can get back. And this is how I can say another time that racism is institutional, structural, and ordinary. So, because I see there is change. I see they give me hope for what I'm doing. So every time I enter in my classroom, I can do another presentation the day after because they give me sense of purpose. And I really want to acknowledge that because I really don't care about academia, about the university. I just care about the students, and they are there. They are willing to understand and to create opportunities for alternatives. So if we don't acknowledge them, we can as well like go away.
Yeah, what you said very interesting at the very beginning is that the books theoretical framework is a very central concept about the process, which is the fact that it's not something that could happen individually, or even we are therapists, we are many therapists here in this room, and a process that could be a dyadic process where there is a powerful therapist and the powerless patient. While the healing processes are collective processes, are the capabilities to create connections and maybe even new communities that have this main goal, feeling better, trying to overcome problems, to deal with the challenges, to survive in certain cases. And these are competence, which is, I think, something quite critical in the human being to create bridges, connections. Maybe it's the strongest fuel toward a radical change. The radical change is a common radical change. It's quite secondary, the individualistic radical change, such as a consequence of interconnection with communities that push for change and radical change. It's stronger way to think of healing within the real effective healing process. And even once again, stronger, disappointment about my knowledge and confidence as an individual powerful white person. Yeah. Maybe. By the way,
I did almost the same experience, but the problem of here is I was in a PhD before, and the professors who is the coordinator of the program and the department, he told me, I will never give you the PhD. You came from you came from Africa, and you are not like the Europeans, European knowledge. So this was a problem. So that's why I left the PhD. And this is not only a problem. Like it has many aspects. Another aspect, he is a professor in stratification in education. He's specialized in stratification in education. After that, I knew that he's in Liga Nord.
So he specialized, like he implemented first.
Yes, exactly.
Where, sorry?
What?
Where?
In Milan, here in Milan, yes. And it wasn't so hard. It was 3 years ago. Like it's not 10 years. And he's still the department coordinator. Yes, yeah. And he's still the department coordinator, and they are making other things. But what's the problem with me? Like after that, I stopped reading, doing anything for 1 year. But there's something wrong here. What is it? I don't know. So I start to heal myself, to understand analyzing every step I made and everyone I met and everything I said. The problem I faced that people didn't believe me when I told them, no, there is something wrong with them, not with me. Here, I start to understand that I have not to defend myself, no, to work more to show them that I wasn't wrong. I had the same qualifications, the abilities to do a PhD and better than this PhD. And I reached here now. And 2 years ago, one of the professors who told me, we don't want you to complete with that, she contacted me and she started to apologize to me for 3 months or 4 months. She's sending me messages, texting to apologize to me. She discovered that she was wrong. She was wrong, and she was also with gender stratification professor. She's a feminist. At this moment, I start to realize that there is not because I knew that I felt here in Italy because I lived in 4 or 5 different countries. I felt some moments in place, I will leave it and start again in another place. But when she started to contact me, I felt there is hope. And she realized that someone else designed a different frame about everything. So she looked from this frame, she looked in his perspective, not her perspective. And at this moment, she started to make an action, not with me. I already left, and I started in different places. But with people, they are suffering there now. Now, I don't know what is the situation exactly, but I can say there is hope as individual and as a collective as well. Like for me, maybe because I have at this moment I lowered my self-esteem, but after I'm okay, I'm good. I did things before, so I can't do this again. But at a collective way, some people they were very, very, very helpful, and they helped me to heal, and some people they didn't. They said, no, we know he's good and everything, but if we try to support him, this guy will look at us and we want to finish our PhD. No, we will just separate it, put him from our group, and we don't know him anymore. We just need to take the PhD and so at this moment, I was very, very upset with these people who exclude me from their group because they are afraid. Again, the person who is controlling everything. And other people, they said, no, we will stick with you. Nothing happened with sticking with me, and nothing happened with excluding me, but it makes me feel like a little sad. Some people, they didn't try to help in a way, very, very simple way. That's it, like, but still, I talked about 4 or 5 things, different things, but the professor, when she contacted me, and she made a tea party for me, and I met her, she was very, very nice in a way that she regretted what she did. And she said that, I regret what I said. Because she told me directly, you should leave the academia. You are so, you have no abilities to compete in the academia. So, after that, she regretted saying that. I told her I left my country to come here for the academia. I can't go back to my home. And I told them, okay, I failed. I can't do that. Even if I'm not good, I will try to be good. When I came here in this department, the opposite happened. They told me, I told them the story. I don't know if they are going to believe me or not. But my professor, she told me, even if you are not good and you are bad, you are already here. You are with us. So if you are not good, we will make you good. But you are okay. You are good. Yeah, you have some. You need to read more about anthropology because anthropology was a new discipline for me. But if you don't know, we will make you know. Then you will be. So don't worry. This is different. At this moment, I saw a different view of how to push people to succeed. And here, how to push them to fail.
So this thing helps us realize two things, that change is possible, but it's low. She took her 2 years, 3 years, to realize she was wrong. But then she came and she offered the tea party, so she knew she was wrong and she had to do some reparation.
She does
So we don't have a lot of time, but we can have a drink together and we can keep talking when they were beat us out of this room. Yes.
Not so easy to bring home.
No, sorry guys. But you can have an estate for us. So, like relating to what Islam said, teachers have a duty to promote an healthy self-esteem in students and PhD students by showing appropriate appreciation and awareness of their potential, right? This doesn't mean like to praise them, just like I sometimes do, but just encouraging her or him or them to work from that foundation that can provide the necessary confidence that is key to build healthy self-esteem. So we have a very important role with each other and as teachers, because competition, another point of the story was that like the other PhD students didn't stick with him, and this is something that can happen so easily because we already we are taught to compete with each other, like this, and if we do that, just compete and we educate enough to become the to change things.
We have really example with him, like think he takes like 3 or 4 grade. Why? Because I wrote the answer like the value is less than 0. And then he told me, no, it's less than 0, it's minus. He's like, so, oh, what? So what should I do? Like, at that point, I know that he wants to, because he had lower distribution rate. So these people had the high grade, like high grades, and people in the middle, and people like low grades.
It's either that no one can succeed, someone should fail. Like no one is great. No one, not everyone in the classroom can have 100%. No, someone has a 100%, 80%, and someone should have the 40% or 30%. So we should. This is how life is. Like everyone is not everyone is equal.
Yeah, but we can change that, right?
And I tried, like I told you, I tried in my university to change some things. Like the head of the department, she told me this is not our business to take care of the students. This will be our role just to teach them, and that's it. Whatever they had the problem, they do not have a problem with, because most of them come from different backgrounds, from different like class, from different like life standard and everything. So they have difficulties sometimes. They can face some difficulties. Maybe they are working. Maybe they are concerned they do not have enough money to buy food. They cannot concentrate in the study. Like some of the girls, they have been died because of the hunger. So they concentrate. So these students, we should concern more about the issues. But most of the people, I think old people, they do not think in this kind of perspective. They have just one point of view and they go with it. And that's it.
Yeah, old people will die eventually. That's the change we are talking about. But I mean, the fact, right? So I do a lot of anti-racist work with like high school students. I go there, I do workshops and stuff, and they always think that racism is a problem of old people. They're not right. Of course, when they will reach the employment market, the job market, and like life as it is outside school, they maybe, they will understand how they are part of the racist structure. But they are right in saying that their grandparents are worse than them most of the time, right? And I believe so. That's so right.
They think it's decreasing.
I think that there are different, for example, I once I hated some words and some concepts such as Afrophobia, because I thought like the phobia, also Islamophobia, or I thought that the concept of phobia was really a way of concealing the fact that there is structural discrimination, and it has like close relation with materiality. Also, I come from Marxist studies, so for me, like materialistic perspective is really there. But now I always use both Afrophobia and anti-Black racism, because there are also psychological and emotional, very emotional components of discrimination, and I think the phobia is decreasing. The phobia is decreasing in the younger generation. What is still there is the fact that the materiality of subalternity between the global north and the global south, even when the global south is within the global north, that is still there, right?
But how is it like, because recently I remember some incidents happening in the US about the Islamophobia. Most of them, they were young, who shot fire with the people, with some Muslims community. Most of them, they were young.
Also, I have to say something. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that the louder is the aggression. That means that the bigger, the louder is the stronger is the faction of the group, the people that wrote this about, right? I really believe in backlash as something that happens in society, So when white people feel threatened because they are losing power, they became they become more violent. Maybe there are less people in the KKK. For example, and cats and candies. Is that I think something is changing. We see it in the cultural production, we see it in the general lexicon, we see it in this thing. They are afraid of us. All the discourse on cancel culture, on politically correctness, on woke culture, it's because they are afraid that we are actually changing the situation. We are changing the grammar of the discussion, and they're dying at the same time. So, right. So just to say the last thing, there's something really out of everything we said, but a very important thing, because we talked a lot about healing, but there is one thing that we should all heal from before going back in our classroom as students or as teachers or as PhD people. That is one of the things that is most important for me in Beluk's thought is like that she speaks a lot about the mind-body colonial split. So as racialized people, more so, we know that we are embodied entities and that we are a whole, right? And the body, the touch can change. We just had the COVID, so there is this thing that we are really not used anymore to come into contact with the other, with the body of the other, and the other is also a body. Okay, but when you have marginalized people in the classroom, their body is like it's not supposed to be there, and it's not supposed to be loved or touched or. And that is why, from a pedagogical perspective, from a pedagogy of freedom, from an engaged pedagogy, the body needs to be present, needs to be touched, not inappropriately, and needs to be acknowledged as something that is changing the space. So when we, as a teacher, and we go back here, and I stop, as teachers, Belux said we request black teachers for black studies, quoting, talking about the work of John Jordan. We want that because we acknowledge that the body is central to the pedagogical experience, right? And having a different kind of body explaining its experience in the classroom is by itself a decolonizing way of being in a place.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Please. Yeah, sure. We can talk. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm really sorry I couldn't be around, and it's really unfortunate because the network where I am is not really good. But what you're addressing forms a huge chunk of my research, and so I could really relate to what you're saying. Okay, you may not know me. My name is Darasimi. I'm from Nigeria. I'm a PhD student in Milano Bicocca, and so I'm black, and I'm working on asylum seekers and refugees. And right now, my
theory, the theoretical framework I'm still working with is the theory of recognition by Axel Honneth, and it's about identity and self-esteem. And so from my interviews with many of the participants, I discovered that because when they get to Italy, they're expected, there's this expectation that they must go to Cipia to learn language. And then they go there, and then the teachers just want to, most times, the teachers just want to teach them language. Just speak this language so that you can be integrated. I mean, it's still an issue what integration means. And so the aspect, the affective aspect, the aspect of identity, helping them to heal, because many of almost all of them came through Libya, and they had serious experiences in Libya, really serious. So I'm really sad that I'm not there physically at the moment to really share my thoughts. But a question that I have is I just need, at the moment, my supervisor has told me that I need to deepen the critical aspect of my research to and I get reviews that I need to critique the provision of language for asylum seekers and refugees as if it's just enough. It is these critical interrogations that I'm still thinking about. I don't know if you could point me in any direction of any book, especially I know you mentioned most of my all my participants happen to be Black Africans, so if there's any book any book on critical theory or critical pedagogy with which to look at the experiences in adult learning centers.
Okay, so thank you very much for your interest. I wrote you my mail in the chat. Okay. If you send me yours, I would give you a bibliography, and we can also have a chat maybe, because I work too with asylum seekers, no, actually with refugees, for my PhD research, and I'm very interested in yours.
Oh, okay, that's great. Really,
Okay.
yeah.
And also, I can send you the books. Of course, I will send you these 3 books we talked about, Teaching to Transgress and Community and Critical Thinking. But maybe if we have a chat, I could think about some more titles that could help you.
Okay. I'm grateful for this. Yes, thank you so much. So I will reach out to you. I'll send you a mail.
Yeah, please do it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very much, everybody. And who's here and want to join us for an aperitivo, we can continue our conversation. Or
we can have tea, we can have a prosecco,
and out of the
yes. Thank you for being here. Bye. Bye, Julia.
Thank you. Ciao. Grazie.
Ciao.
Grazie. Ciao. Thank you.